All right, we're live. Namaskar, everyone. Welcome to the Cārvāka podcast. This one is a new experiment. So, first of all, a very good morning to everyone. I usually host most of my podcasts in the evening, but today is a different day. So, let's experiment with the morning. I'm really happy to have this guest with me today. It's actually the second time he's come after a year. So, welcome, Ratan Sharda ji. Namaste.
Hi, Kushal.
So today's topic is going to be demystifying the RSS because apparently for one of the oldest organizations in India, we need to keep demystifying them for some odd reason. And if you guys have not checked it out, I would recommend you check out my first discussion with Sharda ji, because at that time we had taken up his book, The Secrets of RSS. And today's discussion is demystifying the RSS. This is going to be a continuation of the previous discussion. So I'm not going to cover a lot of topics which we had in the last discussion. So this will be some new topics, some new developments, and also some developments in the future, because Shardaji's another book of Shardaji is going to come up very soon in the next 30 days, which is the Sangh and Swarajya, RSS role in the freedom struggle. And I want to focus on that too today. So my first question to Sharda ji, sir, what made you write Demystifying the RSS again? I mean, you had written Secrets of RSS, obviously, right? So what ऐसा क्या आपके दिमाग में आया कि नहीं मेरे को एक और version इसकी लिखनी पड़ेगी? So what was the reason that you decided to revisit the book again?
See, actually, there was a lot of demand for this book. And then Bloomsbury was good enough to take it up, and they said we'll get it across the globe. So that's what made me refresh the whole content. And the idea was because the RSS has been media, as you rightly said, which is in its genes basically. Because right from Dr. Hedgewar, he said, "Do the work; it will speak for itself." So this media shyness was construed as something that is secretive about RSS. So every issue that came up, they said RSS doesn't open up; it's a secretive organization. Though we work in open ground, though we have meetings where we call everybody. When we release press notes, nobody used to publish it just about a couple of years back or 4 years back. But now, because of the keen interest people have in RSS, I thought it's better that I give out something from as an outsider with an insider view of the RSS, so people can get to know firsthand what RSS is all about. So the book is an updated version with a little more history, a little more better references, and a little expansion on the philosophy side, and also some changes that happened during the time, typically about media RSS relations, and the new expansion path that RSS taken in so many times, and also RSS being very open now with the media and ready to interact, ready to talk, and also ready to go on the TV, etc. So that also was some revised, and I thought that now people will be much more interested when we say that RSS is not a political organization than what it is. So that is what made me go for it. I'm happy to tell you that first version went out very fast. Now there is reprint in the market.
So, congratulations on that. I'm really happy people are, interested in knowing the RSS. I think I'm happy in two ways, because the first way is that the RSS is finally coming out, and somebody, someone from the echelons of RSS is actually interacting and writing books on what the RSS stands on various are. And secondly, there is interest from the other side, not only from the people who are pro RSS, or also even neutral observers. I'm not talking about the person who hates the RSS. So I think this is a net gain, and I want to connect this.
What has happened that there were more people criticizing RSS without understanding and just by hearsay. So it is very important the people who are who actually don't know anything, they should know rather than going by the hearsay, because media is controlled by the left network, which doesn't allow the right view of the RSS to go. In fact, to tell you very interestingly, Chinese think tank approached me saying that we are writing a project on RSS and we would like to have view about RSS from you, because whatever we say, whatever we go for the references, we only find critical work on RSS, nothing which tells really about RSS. So that made them go through my book. They called me invited me for a lecture, and I had a lecture discussions with scholars, and now they might be inviting me again. So there's a lot of interest around the world also. Unfortunately, literature is mostly negative, because that is the body of work that was created by people who didn't like RSS. So slowly now the literature is working. I'm happy to say that I was the earliest ones to come out with a book that was though from insider, much objective than what people have seen so far, and that is the feedback I've got.
And not only that, I recently came across that आपने एक PhD भी की है. Now you have a PhD, so now you're Dr.
I'm
Ratan
working on it
Sharda,
for
right?
last 4 or 5 years, and last couple of years I did a lot of intensive work. I visited. See, RSS passes resolutions about various national issues since 1950, when the new constitution of RSS, as per that constitution, RSS started having passing resolutions, having annual meetings, two meetings. One is of the delegates, one is of the central committee. So those resolutions were the only things that told you about what RSS does. There was no other press briefing, there was no other interaction at that time. So, but people never took it seriously. Press notes are released. In fact, 5 years back, even a book was released with all the resolutions of RSS. So those were actually telling you what RSS thinks about national issues, very critical issues. When I picked up the resolutions, I found about 18 topics of various kinds which were touched upon by RSS, related to social reforms in Hinduism, so related to terrorism, related to integrity of the nation. So I picked up Punjab, Jammu Kashmir, and Northeast because they were the biggest challenge to the national integrity. And I picked up all the resolutions, and not surprisingly, these were the areas which got maximum attention from RSS since 1950. So then I went about collecting references from outside sources. Generally, my view is that when I write about RSS, I pick up more of outside references than inside references because that gives you more objectivity. So that is the story behind this PhD, and it is about 427 pages tome, and referred, or rather checked and cross-checked by 5 scholars. I was supposed to get only 3 to do it, but I had reviews done by 5 people, one from US, from India, and everything went fine. And yes, that's a, I think, path-breaking, because not many people in India do PhD on RSS. If you look at research work, is more by outsiders than insiders from India. And not only that, the universities don't really encourage to write something which is not critical of RSS. So I went about it. I think it's a worth the effort I put in, because if people wish, they can actually now understand over 70 years how RSS was right about national issues, in a couple of points, maybe a little away from what, and mostly what the mainstream political thought was. It never worried about the mainstream so-called thoughts and the dominant views. It went about its own views, and over a period of time, in most of the cases, it has been proven right, whether it's Northeast or Punjab or Jammu Kashmir. So it was quite a fulfilling, I think, journey for me.
Yeah, and I want to ask you another correlated question. It's not nothing to do with your book, but it's very important in the scheme of things that, so in the last 10 to 15 years, you see this openness from the RSS. And I think when we talk about openness from the RSS, I mean, RSS being more open to speaking to the media. Obviously, people like you writing books about the RSS, even going ahead and doing a PhD. I think the path-breaking movement was the recent lecture series by Mohan Bhagwat, where
Yes.
it was a 3 day conference of some sorts, where Mohan Bhagwat basically came out and touched upon a lot of current and old issues, and it basically gave an answer on a lot of issues. And what was interesting was, the usual shtick from the mainstream left wing circle in India about the RSS has always been, the usual RSS fascist hai, RSS is not liberal enough, RSS is not this, RSS is not that. Now, in that uh, say lecture series, one of the most interesting things was basically Mohan Bhagwat ji had said 2 3 things which are really actually blew me away too. I mean, the first point where he mentioned was ki there will be some things that Guru Golwalkar must have said that we may not agree with today. I mean, for the mindset of a left wing individual, actually, the left wing individual in a way has a very blasphemous mindset. And, in the religion of leftism, you can't say no to
You
anything
can't.
said in the past.
You can't.
So basically, according to
No,
a
they
left
do
wing,
pass revisionist resolutions. They
yeah,
do self-criticize, but within the framework of Marxism and other gurus, or Lenin and Stalin. So they still can't get away from whatever mindset was made in World War II. So that's their problem.
yeah, but isn't it a fantastic moment where now you have the current Sarsanga Chalak saying, you know what, maybe some things the Sarsanga Chalak that has said in the past We don't agree with that. It's not in tune with the current reality, so we move forward. And again, obviously, Mohan Bhagwat ji revisited the Section 377 issue and clarified RSS stand. In spite of that, when the Gay Pride Parade happens, there is only Hindutva posters, as if the mullahs and the padris are really standing with them. Oh, go, my gay brothers, go and be gay. I mean, nothing of that sort is happening.
One
But
thing, yeah. See,
so,
one thing
why
is
do you think this
that
happens?
yeah, what Mohanji said was that Guru Gulbarji spoke at that time when the context was different. So to courage to say that the context was different, so some ideas are around a context, sometimes are long term. So he just said that let us leave out the conceptual statements, let us stick to what he did for a lifetime, what he gave a long term vision that is still there. And he is one of the most respected person who actually gave the guidance and strength to RSS when it was very weak and was just a fledgling. So there is no question of disowning, but we must read something which is conceptual and non on the long term, which unfortunately neither communism does nor Islam does, because they will stick to what has been said as gospel truth. We don't. And but the views of Guruji on long-term historical views or the nationhood, they stand test of time. There is no doubt about his views on Hindu-Muslim relations. Still stand test of time when he said that after all they are our brother of the same blood and they have to come with us and we will have to come together. That is a view he expressed in an interview also, which I've quoted in some of the articles. And about 377, when I was, I was asked about it on a TV channel, when I said that as per Hindu thought, not as per RSS thought, because RSS does not need to pass resolution or discuss on every such issues. But what I'm saying, as per Hindu traditions, this is the view which Mohan Raji said, which Dattaji said. So basically, RSS follows what is the best possible Hindu traditions based on which everybody spoke and RSS spoke. And unfortunately, this gay parade and all these leftists who support church and Islam, who are totally against these LGBT community and homosexuality. In fact, they penalize and they have given all kind of punishment to those people. Even laws are against them, that they should go and they should talk about Hindutva forces, who are the only forces who supported these people. Is laughable. It's ironical actually, and it's truly laughable that they should try to hijack a movement on which they were, supporting most orthodox views of Islam and Christianity.
Yeah, it's not even laughable. It's actually baffling to me. I was like, ये तो ऐसा हो गया कि मैं कह रहा हूँ भाई मैं तेरे
देखो
साथ
ना,
हूँ.
चलते
Then
घोड़े पर सवार होने की उनकी आदत है ना, जो अच्छा है मूवमेंट लगा उसको हाईजैक कर लो, जहां प्रॉब्लम दिखे वहां खड़े हो जाओ. दिस इज टिपिकल नियो लेफ्ट, एज यू नो, typically deconstructing whatever they can. So neo left idea of somehow latching onto issues that they can divide a society on, whether India or anywhere else, that is now well exposed now to the world.
yeah, but it annoys me because if I was someone, if I just look at it from a pure activist point of view, if I was an activist, if I get support from such a huge organization where they say no 377, it should not be criminalized. अभी तो चलो हो गया सब ठीक है. The point is, why would you want to alienate anyone? I mean, at the end of the day, and
Not
then you want to
alienate,
feel
Kushal,
these.
you are actually victimizing them, not just alienating. You are victimizing them, you are making them pay a price for which they may not be at all responsible. It was nature's game that happened to them, and they are the victims of that particular circumstances. So why should we victimize them? Why should we penalize them? That is the key issue. It is totally against any humanitarian thought.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't go through some people in the left, and it's just it is quite baffling to me.
See,
Sometimes,
left have a typical problem that they don't know what they are, because on one side they try to project a very liberal and very let us say progressive view, whatever progressive means, whatever liberal means today. It is totally totally twisted concept now. On the other side, they support forces who are highly orthodox or highly anti-human nature, and they are highly regressive. It's very strange mix. They can ride on any horse that somehow will give them some strength.
yeah, I
On
mean,
their own, they have nothing to say right now. They're outdated. They are totally dinosaurs of today's world.
yeah, I think what I find very disappointing is that hate has overcome some people so much that they are not willing to look beyond their hatred of the other, and I think that's not healthy. It's not healthy for them. It's not healthy for the
Not healthy
society.
for their own health. Yesterday there was debate when they were talking about Bengal's oppressive regime, and Marxists tried to put as if RSS and Mamta are friends. I said, come on, friend, you have lost 150 people. after Mamta's coming to rule, and you're still trying to justify her. I think you're losing your own mind. You're not supporting your own people, whether it's Kerala, whether it's Bengal. And in Bengal, actually, they were the first victims. After SSRA case started killing Naxals, then communists took the same idea. They started killing others. Then TMC came and picked up all the goons from Marxists, and they started killing these communists. So instead of understanding that this blood will not lead anywhere, they are trying to justify it in very strange manners. So I think they have lost total focus on what they went out to start with their life. That is the problem with them.
Yes, very true. Now I want to touch upon this aspect. This happens actually on both sides, but I mean, it happens anyways. It's human nature. Now, what I have analyzed is when it comes to the RSS or its leadership, right? There is selective quoting on both sides. I'm not saying whether it's good or bad, but and I'm glad you did the PhD on it, and I'm going to connect it. So give me a couple of minutes. So what happens is when you read a typical left-wing publication, right, you will read quotes from Guru Golwalkar that are selectively picked or twisted or are presented out of context, or in some cases they are his views. And then when you consider the sympathizers of the RSS or the supporters of the RSS, they will pick up some quotes from Guru Golwalkar or the other Sarasangachalaks, and they will present it in an X way. The reality is, quote mining never gives you a complete reflection of what the person stood for. I mean, I can pick quotes from any religious book that are nice. I can pick quotes from the religious book that are equally violent also. The point is that doing a meta analysis of a person's view requires a lot of time and energy. Now, I wanted to ask you, somebody who's not an RSS guy. I mean, I'm sure you've heard of the new book on RSS from that guy. उसका नाम मुझे हमेशा भूल जाता है.
Anderson,
Yeah. So
Damle and Anderson.
yeah. So Anderson wrote a recent book on the RSS where he's tried to do a deep dive in RSS. Now, as an author on RSS, you are also an author on RSS. So I know it's not about your book, but what are your initial views on somebody from the outside looking at the RSS and trying to give a worldview which is not an insider's worldview? So, and how would you respond to something like that as a person who is qualified in understanding the RSS in a far deeper way than the average person?
You remember Anderson and Damle wrote a book 30 years back, that was Pathbreaking, which was not typically, critical view or the left view of RSS. It was a view which was built upon their meeting some of the top leaders of RSS, having long discussions and chats with them, and trying to create a view. And that book is still supposed to be a masterpiece on RSS by most of the people, especially outside India. And now, after 30 years, they have decided to revise the book. And let me tell you, Sridhar Tamla is an insider. He's not an outsider. He has old RSS links, while Anderson is an outsider. So it's a very interesting mix. My only issue with Anderson, I don't think Damle agrees with him when he tries to say there will be a battle between Hinduism and Hindutva, because Hindutva is a Sanskrit and Hindi word. Its English word is Hinduism, because we have not yet come to a stage where we will say, okay, there is one word, whether it's Sanskrit or Hindi, English. So this is a superficial construct created by Anderson because a lack of understanding still about Hindutva and what is Hinduism. For me, their alternative was, I basically don't believe in ism, because ism is something like an ideology which is a framework which can be Marxism. Islam is not ism, Christian is not ism, so Hindu cannot be ism. Hindu is a dharma. Hindu is a whole idea, a paradigm of ideas which typically reflect pluralism of life and about typical views about nature, about human relationship, about how a society should work. So we cannot call it ism first of all. So there can be no battle between ism and tattva, because tattva is basically essence of what you think. So there he makes a mistake, but people are welcome as long as they are objective. And in spite of being objective, they have some preset ideas which everybody has. I think more people should come out and have, trying to understand, because RSS people are ready to talk, they're ready to discuss. There is a new book which came out recently on Mohana Bhagwatji by, I think, Shubh Nag, and which I reviewed, should be out in organism one of these days. Where after reading the book, I found that this person never met Mohan Rao Bhagwat, and he writes a tome about Mohan Rao Bhagwat. He talks to some people, and he doesn't even quote them properly, very senior people who have talked to. And then his whole book is based on hearsay. He will say, the Wire said it, the Scroll said it, somebody else said it. So this kind of books, then you lose their gravity. So I think it's more to do with how you sincerely you do the research, how sincerely you quote or convey the meaning of what you talked about people. So that is where, whereas a book becomes just a instant seller, it becomes an instant mix and brush up the things. So that has to be avoided. But yes, more people coming up and discovering RSS or writing on various aspects of RSS is very welcome.
But this has been a standard, accusation from the left wing in India across the world too. That Hindutva is basically political Hinduism, just like Islamism is political Islam, or that they always try to draw this parallel.
No, Islam is not a word. Islam is a religion. Nobody calls it Islamism. That's why I said
No,
Christianity
no.
is a religion.
So they
Nobody calls it Christianism because then it becomes ideology,
no,
and
that's
it's a
what they try
frozen
to say,
ideology.
right?
For
Islam,
Hindu is not a frozen ideology.
ISIS and Islamism, what they say is Islamism is the political side of Islam, where they try to put Islam as a religion or as a political system. So what
But Islam is a political system, Kushal.
I
It is a
know, but
political.
I have to play the role
It
of what the
dictates
left will
all
say.
walks of life, right from your birth to how you marry, how you do various things, and how do you ultimately end up life. So it is there. In Hindutva, on the Hindu philosophy, it's very open system. Rajiv Malhotra says it's an open architecture. Within the larger framework, you can constitute anyway. You are a Hindu, you don't believe in God. You are an atheist, but you believe you are a Hindu because there are certain constructs which you believe in. That is why you are open to various ideas. So that's ultimately what Hindutva is. Hindutva is not political philosophy. Hindutva is a very essence of what Hindu is, what Hindu dharma is, what Hindu culture is, and whether to take it as a political thought or not, that is people's view. But it's just like you pick up Islam and create a philosophy out of it. Hindutva is open. You can do whatever you want to. Whether it is a culture which has helped people do so much good for the society, for the people, for the nation. So it is not to be taken narrow way of electoral politics.
It is
Ultimately, every view can be constituted as political if you really go to that length.
Yeah, I mean it's true. I struggle with it
Christianity was a
personally because
political, wasn't it? Christianity rode on the shoulders of imperialism across the world and used the power of the state to convert people, to exploit people, use Bible to exploit people. So they did it. Hindus never did it.
no, it's true. But I have personally struggled with this. I mean, आपने जैसे मेरे बारे में mention किया कि I openly identify as a Hindu because what happens is most people don't realize that the framework that we work with. See, whenever, in fact, I have this problem when I talk to neo atheists in the West also. When I talk to them, they're like, "Why do you use the word Hindu? तुम हिंदू नाम हटाओ." I was like, मैं नहीं हटाऊंगा. तुम कौन होते हो मेरे को बोलने वाले? And this has been my struggle all the time. They're like, "No, you don't need the word Hindu. Word atheist is enough." I was like, okay, so you don't use it. I'm not telling you to use it, but my culture has no problem with it.
See, problem is, Kushal, that they are, in spite of their denying it, they are looking at everything through biblical glasses, through the imperialist glasses. So their whole worldview is made by what they see in the West, whether it's nationalism, whether it's religion, whether it's the dominance of religion over state. So these are the worldviews that are actually molded their thoughts. In India, if we really go back to our own cultural roots that we RSS is trying to do, we realize that okay, there's a lot more to it than what a few scriptures may say or a few Mahatmas, few gurus may say. So that is the reason we say, please go back to the roots, read your own age-old culture and imbue those values, and you will understand that our worldview is different from the West. So there is no way if I tomorrow start seeing taking a West view, as Rajiv Malhotra rightly points out, I'll have very different view of Jesus, very different view of Muhammad. I will not look at whole of Arab world as Middle East. I will look at Middle West. For me, they are not that way. So this whole idea of looking at the world through Western glasses, that has to stop. A lot of things will fall in place. Then Hindu will not become a dirty word because West believes that way, because the church believes that way, and because the way the scholars have used the church money to create a whole hype around Hindu as something which is to be detested, which is orthodox, which is bad. Although Hindus are the best civilization, the best support system for innovative thought system, innovative views. We know all this, so we'll not get into that too much now.
Yeah, but the struggle, what I face as personally, I have realized this is what happens is there tends to be hyperbolic statements sometimes on both sides. Obviously, the other side, which is the Western understanding of Hindutva, is obviously corrupted because they don't. I think it at an epistemic and a dialectical level, there is a difference between the Hindu view of the world and the Western view of the
Exactly.
world.
Exactly.
It is actually an epistemic difference. Like the other day, I was with a very well known, probably that atheist, and he probably is the founder of the largest atheist platform in the world, probably now as of today. But he was not getting it. So I tried to explain it to him from the Jain point of view, the Jain view of Syadvad. Like how the Jain view is that at an absolute level, the truth is one, but at the level of the Vyavharika, we always add Syad. So Syad Asti, Syad Nasti. So what is Syad? Syad means maybe. Maybe
Right.
true, maybe false. So
It's same
therefore,
thing.
we always
Ekam sar
qualify.
vipra bahuda vadanti. It's same. You
Yeah.
can have a different word for the same idea that a truth can be seen from every side, but truth is one. We
Yeah, but
don't say mine is the only worldview, mine is the only true view. We don't say that.
problem क्या होती है हाल में? They think that the moment you say it is maybe true or maybe false, they start saying that you're a moral relativist. That means there is no truth or false. No, 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 no. There is a truth. There is the false. But the point of epistemology in Hinduism or in Jainism or Buddhism has always been it is coming from a priori assumption. That a priori assumption is from an individual's point of view. That's why you should always have a qualifier as maybe true, maybe
Right.
false. That doesn't mean a Hindu will jump from a building saying maybe gravity is not true. The Hindu will agree with gravity. But I think it's very hard to wrap around, and I agree with you. It's a very binary worldview, and the Hindu worldview is not very binary in that sense. So I think Hindus and Christians will
So
always
now,
have to struggle.
let's say that there is no black and white, there are all shades of gray. Now, West comes to that view finally. See what is West saying? There are different shades of gray. That's ultimately what we say that okay, there can be different views. We need not agree with you, but my view, I will. This is my view. Your maybe a bit different view, but I respect that. I'm not tolerating you. I'm respecting you.
Yeah, I
So
think
this,
what happens
unless
with
we
Westerners is
slowly the world will come to a view that what Hindu philosophy is right, that we can interpret everything as our own way. At the same time, we must coexist in a plural way without oppressing or without putting exclusively throwing those people out of my worldview because they don't believe it, they don't agree with me. So the world will have to come to that view if they want peace. You talked about selective quoting. The difference between RSS and others is we don't selectively quote. We quote Guruji and we say, okay, this is what Guruji said. We are not saying he didn't say that. He said it in a particular conceptual manner. Now, if you look at what happened in 1946, 1947, the worst period of India's independence struggle and the struggle. If you look at that period, the torture, the violence, and the problems that India went through, people had those views. Those views at that time expressed in a certain way were there. Then, as things settled down, we took a long-term view and we went ahead because that bitter time was there, and we cannot deny that. We cannot deny that we lost millions of people. We cannot deny that RSS had huge role to save people, and in spite of that huge role to save people, it was banned. It was circumscribed. It was it was oppression in all the possible ways all these years. In spite of truth of Gandhi murder, not RSS having no hand in it, court saying it, commission saying it, CID saying it, still that badgering goes on. So at that time, 47, 48, 46, when they were on the field, and while Congress people are cooling their heels in very nice places, they would have certain worldview which others have not seen. So that context has to be there, but the book, we are not saying that book is not there. We say it's not there. No, we are not, afraid to own up a person who has been the real guiding light of RSS long years. So when we quote Sardar Patel, we are quoting him, a person of that splendor of Sardar Patel or various people. They have views, they have expressed views at different times. So when Sardar Patel speaks in Congress meeting, he'll say one thing. When he writes to RSS, he says another thing. So we will see that we respect Sardar Patel. Guruji he went to his funeral in spite of having a very tight schedule. Only time he cancelled changed his program was to attend the funeral of Sardar Patel. He went on advising Nehru and Patel at various times, getting whatever feedback he got from Nepal, from China, from various bordering areas. He always shared them. He wrote letters to them. So the animosity is only ideological, not at all for the nation. It was just a difference of view, but RSS never took it to heart. It's helped the government whenever required, whether it was Operation Blue Star, whether it's Khalistani, when they were fighting very, ideological war and trying to say that Hindu Sikhs are one family, in spite of very strong pressure on them, whether 62 war, 65 war, 71 war, or Northeast work. So comes first, nation's good comes first, and these ideological differences don't really hurt us. With in spite of all this, Shastriji invited Guruji, Nehru invited RSS. So we must understand national life is much bigger than my view or your view.
Yeah, I also want to clear one more point with you, which actually we skipped in the last podcast, which we had 1 year ago. एक standard accusation आरएसएस के प्रति जो लगाई जाती है कि आरएसएस will remove the constitution of India and RSS will establish some Hindu theocracy. Now, I have fundamental problems with that questions from both sides. There is some kooky element in the Hindu side also that has this imaginary Hindu theocratic worldview, and there is a kooky element on the left wing which is far bigger than the Hindu side, which keeps on imagining and blaming RSS for it, that RSS will install, they will tear apart the constitution and install. I mean, and the funniest part is, I mean, वो साक्षी महाराज जी जो जी न्यूज पे आए थे एक बार एक डिबेट. आई एम नॉट अ फैन ऑफ साक्षी महाराज. लेट मी बी वेरी ओपन अबाउट इट. आई डोंट लाइक द मैन. आई डोंट लाइक द वे ही सेज सम थिंग्स. That's okay. He has every right to say it. But the point is, there was this guy from AIMIM, Sakshi Maharaj, and there were many other Congress and BJP representatives. Same
Best
question
possible.
was raised, right? और उन्होंने बोला था कि आपको कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन चाहिए कि रिलीजन चाहिए. तो साक्षी महाराज उठे, वो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन की तरफ गए, उन्होंने अपनी चप्पल उतारी. He bowed down to the constitution. He said, Constitution supreme. Everything else comes afterwards. I am a Democrat. And then he goes back. Everybody does it. But only that Asaduddin Owaisi का political representative, he refused to do that. Now, मैं आपको भी एक क्वेश्चन पूछ रहा हूँ कि आरएसएस की कोई प्लान है इंडिया को डेमोक्रेसी बंद करके थियोक्रेसी बनाने के? एक बार हम क्लियर कर लेंगे.
See, RSS believes in Hindutva. Hindutva believes in pluralism. Hindutva believes in republic of faiths, republic of ideas. So how can RSS be against constitution? We had certain ideas. We thought that it was too much of a cut paste. Guruji said it clearly. There is too much of a cut paste of various constitutions, and many ideas are imported from West. And we should have stuck to Indian genius. That is what he said. Everybody has a right to criticize an idea. Everybody has a right to express opinion. That doesn't mean I don't. If I don't, I criticize. Doesn't mean I cannot stand with you, and I will not have work together. So this the problem with the intolerant left is that they believe they can also support violence against the democracy. They can support violence against constitutions, ideas, but still they will say that we believe in constitution. This is the biggest hypocrisy that we see, that left has never have openly supported armed struggle. They openly supported violence, whether in Kashmir, whether in Naxal area, whichever area it is, or even Naxalbari itself. Then they say we believe in constitution. They agreed to constitution 1951. Remember this. After they were beaten black and blue in Telangana, they had to stop the rebellion from 47 onwards on the order of Stalin. Then finally they said, okay, we believe in constitution, we'll go the constitution way. In spite of that, they themselves, their urban Naxals, very happily say that we have a right to dissent, but dissent means violence. That dissent means killing people in spite of saying that we believe in constitution. So we have no duplicity. We had certain reservations about the way as many elements are picked up various places. But if you look at the question answers that happened during ban period when government asked her questions, RSS clearly said we respect Tiranga, we respect constitution, we have no reason. And people who say they don't want to change constitution, change it 100 times, Kushal, 100 times. They even amended the preamble itself. When Ambedkar had fought against the idea of putting secularism and socialism in the preamble, and everybody in Constituent Assembly agreed, still in 76, we go ahead and amend the very basic idea that the founding fathers of India had. So trying to blame something on RSS where there is no ground for it at all, it's just creating a hullabaloo and creating a kind of dark shadows that don't exist.
So from what I've understood is the RSS view is that constitution is just a document. It's not perfect. So if it needs amendment, we support the amendment. That does not mean we are anti-democracy. We like democracy too at the same time.
As I said, our own idea, the whole Indian civilization was based on democracy. You look at the oldest ways of life, we have studied enough, right from Gupta Empire, even look at Mahabharata. There are so many elements of democratic ideas, of republics, panchayats, and janapadas, and all that clearly shows we are democratic by way of thought itself. So this whole local self-government is not an invention of West, it is an invention of India. And that is how economy survived in spite of so many invasions, so much of hard work done by Mughals and invaders and British to kill the Indian economy, and British succeeded because they killed the local republics. Hindu kingdoms never did it. Kings went and came. Tulsidas say, "Pooj Nripabhay hame kya hani." Whoever the king will survive, because that's the way village republics work. So we have very basically democratic in thought and deed. So there is no reason why RSS should be anti-democracy. In our own meetings, we do not pass any resolution. Everybody agrees. Imagine, we will keep on postponing a decision till everybody agrees. That is the level of democracy we have. In Pratinidhi Sabha, sometimes the debate goes on and on for hours before that is finalized. And we see there is too much of a difference of opinion. We put it on. It's okay. Let us will discuss again when we have people again expressing the view with more, with more ideas.
Yeah, I can vouch for this particular aspect of RSS because I remember once having coffee with Sharda ji, and Sharda ji told me, "ओ यार वो तुम यूनिफॉर्म वाला क्वेश्चन मत पूछो, अभी तक वो डिसाइड नहीं हो पा रहा है, सब लोग एग्री नहीं कर रहे हैं." मैंने बोला सर 3 साल हो गए एग्री नहीं कर रहे लोग उसके बारे में. So
It
yeah,
was put on hold. It was put on hold when Bhagaji said, till everybody comes online, there are old people or old school of thought to believe it's a identity. Let it be on, let it be parked for some time. When finally it was passed. So ultimately, this kind of democracy you don't find in most of the organizations. That is why we have not split. We have survived. We have thrived. We don't depend on Sarsang Chala's view alone. Sarsang Chala depends on everybody's views before it takes a decision. That's the beauty.
yeah, it's actually quite commendable. And in fact, one thing I've experienced, and I have a huge, my मेरी दुखती रग जातिवाद है. So one thing I have to admire about RSS is RSS के अंदर that was one of the few organizations I've noticed वहाँ पे जातिवाद नहीं है. They have crushed जातिवाद to the core. मतलब खत्म कर दिया है अंदर तक जातिवाद को. और फिर भी RSS is a Brahminical organization, which is the funniest accusation.
See, let me again clarify this point, which I've clarified in my book also. I many times say it openly. When these political movements in India started, at that time Brahmins were the dominant society, dominant knowledge people, I would say. Though Udyog was controlled by Shudras, by Vaishyas, and they were the real manufacturers. But the ideas people were Brahmin people. So any movement you see, right from 19th century, 18th century, it was led mostly I would say by Brahmins, whether it's Communist Party, a Congress Party, or Jansangh or Socialist Party also. It is only as the society evolves, as you get more and more people nurtured, they will rise to the top level. Now we have a lot of middle leaders and the top decision-making bodies who are non-Brahmins, who are not even so-called Kshatriyas or whatever. We don't know what they are basically, but they've risen. They have risen from the most economically backward or deprived areas. They come on the top. Munde was one example, though we don't name names. But doing all that without getting into caste, we have seen to it that quality-wise people rise across the spectrum of the society. We have fought for oppressed classes, especially regarding temple entry and all that in South, and we have worked for reforms of Hindu society without rubbing people the wrong way. So communist people could not find a one Dalit in their own Politburo for 90 years. Imagine. They talk equality, they have no Dalit in their Politburo. And their top leaders were Brahmins all the time. They got one woman after 80 years who happened to be wife of the general secretary. So this problem that people keep on talking about RSS lacks of women with them. They have got women in every other organization of RSS except the Shaka itself, and they have worked very happily, and they are growing well within the organization. They have done some of the best work. I meet them in the various programs. You will not find this kind of equality in any other organization, or you will not find any exploitation of women RSS at all. All through its life, it has just seen to it that they get respect, they get the place in the sun, and they can do whatever they want to do. They enable them with Samiti, with various organizations affiliated to RSS. So this idea, which has been carried on and on by people, it is not an exemplary that Brahmins did all this, but Brahmins were in the forefront by virtue of their, whatever happened during thousands years. Slowly, they have seen to it. Even Ambedkar, who supported Ambedkar, Maharaj of Baroda, his teacher himself gave him surname. So they Brahmins by themselves understood that everybody should rise. Times have changed. So we have done something wrong. That is why reservations came in. That is why RSS still justifies the reservation. But idea that Brahmanism, what it is, I think that is totally fake narrative we are creating. There is nothing like it, because all the top rishis, if we look at them, many top rishis, including Valmiki, Vedavyas, and Ravidas Maharaj, they were not Brahmins, they were not high caste at all. And they have got huge respect. There are Shudras who have risen to be Brahmins as the rishis. I will not get into all the history, those that history better. But unless we recognize this, enlightened view of Hindu dharma, enlightened way of life of Hindu dharma, we will keep on criticizing. There is typical division of society in West, in Islam, in Christianity. In Kerala there are 13 kind of churches. One person doesn't go to other church. That low caste, low society Muslim cannot marry in a higher caste or higher class Muslim. The same is true of British. Don't they have the lords and don't have common man? They don't proletariat, because this is something that happens, uh, and we have to be very conscious this happen naturally. We have to see to it that these things are stopped. When we see this, we cannot have this kind of discriminatory society, and that is what RSS says. That is the reason it never talks of caste, but when it sees it, it tries to resolve the problem. That is why Samajik Samarastha Manch came up. That is why Vishnu Parishad came up, where the first time in 10,000 years, all the Hindu saints, Shankaracharya, were brought on the same platform and sat at the same level. There is no higher and lower. That is something that we must appreciate. And that are the people who pass the resolution that there can be no Patit Hindu, there can be no downfall Hindu. That is the resolution passed. Then resolution was passed that we are all sons of the same mother, so there can be no difference in their stage in the society.
Okay, so now I want to go to the next book that is coming
40
up.
minutes, how it's not too late.
No, that's
I
okay.
hope
But
people's
I
interest.
have time.
I hope no. I have hope people's interest keeps alive.
No, people's interest is alive. In fact, people on the live chat are abusing me. When do we get to ask him questions? भाई मेरे को पहले मेरे question पूछने दो, फिर मैं आपके question पूछूं.
Okay.
Okay, so now the last question I want to ask is, and this is again, ये मेरे को समझ नहीं पड़ता है. I mean, you have Javed Akhtar always fighting with everyone on Twitter. तुम तो संघी हो. तुम पूछो तुमने क्या freedom struggle में fight किया था. So now finally you have decided that you decided that you're going to write a book, and now I think it's going to come up the next month. This book.
Yes, it's already under print.
The name of the book for the everybody who's going to be listening to it on the audio later on, or who's going to watch the video, is The Sangh and Swarajya RSS role in the freedom struggle. So now, sir, I just want you to give a few summary points about what was the RSS role in the freedom struggle, and why do you think this kind of a weird accusation was even laid about? If anything, RSS can be accused of being hyper nationalist, not participating in the freedom struggle. So I myself got confused as someone who's not. I won't say I am part of the RSS. I am someone who criticizes the RSS also. But even ये थोड़ा मेरे लिए भी थोड़ा ज़्यादा हो गया, ऐसा हो गया था. मतलब ये क्या चक्कर था? So can you demystify this aspect, the freedom struggle and RSS role in it?
What happened? That recently when they found that the Gandhi murder story is not sticking anymore, they brought up the freedom struggle issue. And people who bring up the communists, it's very funny that communists who were against British became British friends after Russia and British came on the same side on World War II. They were the people who passed the Resolution 42 that India is made up of 16 nations, and they need to be 16 nations in India. They were the ones who requested British to help them catch this 1942 agitationists, because they had become friends, because these Russians had become friends with British. And then in 46 they submitted a memorandum to British cabinet commission, saying that India should be divided into 16 nations. They were the ones who on the order of Stalin, as I said, they told that this is not real freedom. And these are the people who so these issues have never been discussed. And there are so many aspects. They supported Pakistan. They said this is the right is they have to be different country. They are the people who supported plebiscite and division of Kashmir. If you go through the history, in fact, two communists sat in Srinagar, husband wife, tried to change the image of Sheikh Abdullah as a rabid communist who oppressed Hindus and persecuted them, into a secular leader of Kashmir. So this is the history. Against this, if you look at RSS view, right from Dr. Hedgewar, who was a congressman, who was a revolutionary, then he became Congress member and struggled for freedom with Congress, who offered Satyagraha in 21 in 30. Then after he expired in 42, RSS took part in 1942 Freedom Quit India movement. I've given various references and proof of that also. Not only that, when there was no space, when the Quit India movement, all the top leaders arrested, these people RSS people gave support to underground leaders who were moving around in their own homes. They fought their cases in the courts. Then, if you look at it, does 47 mean the end of freedom struggle? 46 onwards, and partition was accepted. After that, imagine the fate of people who were left behind in the partitioned areas. What happened to them? We never discussed whether the Swaraj was achieved just by putting a flag 15th August 1947. No, sir. There were millions of people suffering on east side of India, on west side of India. Who stood with them? It was RSS at its own cost. People lost their families, they lost their houses, they lost their jobs, and they lost their lives. And they went on to support these people, bring them safely to India, see to their rehabilitation. RSS is the only so-called NGO, if you call in today's terms, who apart from government help these people. So who will write about that? Government never talked about Portuguese independence, Goan independence, Goa, Damandiu, Pondicherry. It didn't look at them. In fact, when satyagrahas were done, Nehru didn't like it at all. He said, "What are you doing?" He didn't support them. In spite of then finally 61, when Portugal was won, two gentlemen, Mr. Mohan Ranade and his friend, were in Portuguese jails in 69. Can you imagine it? Because government never bothered about them. So all this has to come out. People have to understand. Then another interesting thing I found when I wrote the book, that 1920 was a mass agitation, then 30 was a mass agitation, salt satyagraha and jungle satyagraha, then 42 was a mass satyagraha. So one satyagraha or one movement in a decade, do you think British would be going after that? Just think about that. And 42 agitation, all said and done, if you look at it fairly, fizzled out. Then what happened? Then INA came up. So Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose came up. Then naval, rebellion took place. That is when British back was broken, and when British realized that we can't really anymore rule this country, and that is how independence came. It was step from 1857. How can we deny that? Chafekar Bandhu, Savarkar, so many people, Bhagat Singh Azad, and a whole range of Rajbihari Bose, or hundreds who went to gallows, who did their own way, tried to somehow keep on upsetting the British. And if you don't look at the whole movement, we can say, okay, only 42 got us independence. So I've tried to bring some of the points very objective in the book. It's a very short book because I want most people to read it. But you'll find a lot of such historical references. It is purely based on proof, evidence, and references. So people understand in a balanced view that RSS, in spite of being so young, whatever it did could do, and suffered hugely because of that. In any other country, they would have been invited to be part of the government effort to redevelop India. Unfortunately, India, politics takes the front seat. So politically, Nehru found it very threatening that RSS is so popular after its work in partition. And then all the processes started of, oppressing it, and then somehow trying to oppress it. Then Gandhi murder was used in spite of a very clear CID proof saying that RSS has no hand. All that is history, but I have not talked much about it. I am basically talking about how various elements finally brought this independence. In fact, Manmohan ji gave a very interesting example that Ambedkar has said that every political revolution takes place on the back of a cultural revolution. So whether it's Islam, whether it's Christianity, whether it's our own Indian nationhood. So these various saints right from Bhakti, Bhakti time, 15th, 16th century, kept the national feeling and culture alive. That is how this, what we call a Jyoti Jalti Rahi. And then Vivekanand came and Aurobindo came and the culture renaissance took place. And then this is how slowly the whole momentum built up. We cannot look at this historical movement of independence in a very isolated manner. That's what I try to bring out in this book also.
Okay, so I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions from the live chat. People have been watching it, so they wanted to ask. One is very weird. Do you have any info regarding RSS providing land to madrasas, or there is some misinformation spread on Twitter? RSS is providing land to madrasas?
See, RSS doesn't have anything to do with madrasas, and they have even RSS got its own people inspired by RSS who have gone ahead and created schools. They have purchased land. They have taken various kind of society help to come up with schools. There are 29,000 schools in India which are run by RSS minded people. Then the Ekal Vidyalaya movement, which is not just RSS now. A lot of people have liked the idea, picked up the idea, and they have run their own foundations and doing this Ekal Vidyalaya, which has 80,000 places. RSS has sympathizers in an organization called Muslim Rashtriya Manch. They have their own thing. They have been fighting for reforms of Muslim society. They were the ones who took million signatures against triple talaq, and they're the ones who may be trying to take mullahs on their own turf by creating madrasahs, which offer a national view of India and education. I have seen nothing yet, and I have met a couple of MRM people, and they said, okay, we have RSS views and we appreciate RSS views. We are doing our own battle, and if there is somebody from MRM is doing this job or creating madrasas which are reformists, which are struggling against the typical Maulvi view or Mullah view of Islam, I see there is nothing wrong in that. But RSS by itself, and none of its member is interested in getting into madrasa business because we don't understand Islam very honestly. How can we try to reform a society of which we are not part? If there are people in MRM who are inspired by RSS national views and want to take the battle into mullah land and try to reform the society and fight for their reforms, whether educational or women's right, they are welcome. Why should we get worried, and why should we criticize a move by Muslims themselves to try to reform the society from within? Every society reforms from within. Nobody from outside can reform the society.
True. So one last, I'll package these questions together because they are interrelated. One is, what is the RSS trying to do when it comes to the Kashmiri Pandit exodus? And what about the Bangladeshi and Pakistani Hindus? Is there a way that the RSS is working, or is there anything the RSS is doing in getting them back to India? And the age-old question of Ghar Vapsi. So why is reconversion into Hinduism so wrong? What is the view of RSS on that? So if you can club these three things together, because they're all three basically related to demography and anything to do with demography.
See, what is Ghar Vapsi? Ghar Vapsi is basically returning to roots. It is Paravartan, as people put it. This was started by Judev in Bastar area, who was an ex-king of there, when he would wash the feet of his brother and saying that we made a mistake and you should return to your own faith. That is how it happens. In the Northeast, there is a movement now slowly picking up of indigenous faiths who believe that they have been cut off roots by this. But the church, when they convert, they try to also kill their old cultures and traditions. So they feel suffocated. Some people have returned. Some people are trying to nurture their own traditional belief systems, in which RS is very happy to help them. There are organizations in Northeast who are helping these indigenous faiths. They are not typically by definition so-called Hinduism people, but they have same value systems, their own value systems, and we encourage them to come back to the tradition so they don't feel lost. Their roots are not lost, because ultimately converting to a different way of worship should not remove them from the roots. And that is what the church did in Northeast. That is why you see so much disaffection. So there we have a role to play. We have a role to play where we say, okay, if somebody wants to return his own old faith from where he was converted or she was converted, the person has a right to do it. And I think it's a right of our people to propagate our religion. If the constitution gives a right to propagate one's religion, do Hindus lose the right? They don't lose the right. They're not forcing anybody. They're not luring anybody. They're not offering medicine in the name of holy water and then converting people. They're not offering them money to convert. So I think this is unnecessary hype. You want to have a right to convert people under the constitution, then Hindus have a right to reconvert people and at least offer them their own respect, their dignity. I know people left because they were not given dignified life. They were not treated equally. Yes, that was done by Hindu societies. That wrong has to be righted. That is the reason that RSS affiliated bodies go to them, offer their services, and understand their pain and try to provide them their dignity back to their own society, where they feel much more happier, because the roots are still there. You will find the so-called new converts still worshipping a Hindu god. Then some padri comes and throws away the photos and various things. You see various documentaries, YouTube. You find how they ask them to break their idols and all, murtis and all, which is not correct. We have no problem. We have various religious frames in various Hindu homes. We have no issue because we believe in multiple way of reaching the god. That is not an issue at all. You asked about Kashmiri Pandits. RSS has been talking and fighting for Kashmiri Pandits right from 60s. If you look at various resolutions passed by RSS, which I quoted in my book, especially since 1980s onwards, continuously warning people, cautioning people when they were the governments, when they were thrown out RSS immediately put up camps in various places to provide them relief, continuously raise their issues with the governments of the day, even with BJP. And that is one of the points where continuously RSS is trying to hammer on the point that these people need to be settled properly. I do not know how many people will like to go, but at least their security has to be there, those who want to return. And regarding, so this is a process which will needs a lot more political when they're just passing resolutions by RSS. But RSS, to by all its brethren, whether they come from Afghanistan or Pakistan, now look at Pakistani Hindus getting visas in India, getting their easily, renewed visas. Nobody did it earlier on. On Bangladesh side, now this government of getting, Hindus, both Sikhs and Christians from these areas allowed to be citizens in India is based on the same thought that RSS has. Because where do these people go? They have no other way. This is the only place in the world where they can get have dignified life. So that has to be respected. While Muslims come here for better life, for economic life, so they can come as a business people, as a professional people. They cannot get rights to destroy the democratic system or influence the democratic system, as Guwahati High Court and Supreme Court rightly said. So one of the ideas that is floating around since 2003 2004, which can be picked up after this foreign national issues resolved by NRC, that they may be finding some way to work here, but not being citizens and not getting citizen right, and just being here to work and not influencing the local politics. That is a way it can be done like any other countries. This is an idea floated by intellectuals of Assam way back in 2003-4. But till we came to the stage where NRC could identify foreigners, yes, there have been mistakes, and that mistakes need to be corrected. But unless we agree that we do need NRC, I would say even at national level, we are not a dharamshala. So people can come to earn their living, but they cannot influence the local, national issues and democratic systems. That is why we have been supporting people who come against persecution, escape persecution, those who come for business. There is difference between the two.
Okay, fair enough. Now, I think we've reached the 1 hour mark, so we have to wrap things up. But guys, the Amazon link to Shardaji's book is in the description of the podcast. I would recommend all of you buy that book, read it,
Thank
because
you.
what happens every time is RSS sympathizers or RSS critics. To both of them, my message is, जो भी करना है perfect करो. And Purva Paksha is an old Indian tradition. So if you want to criticize someone, you have to criticize them on the terms that they say they stand for. So you should not impose your views on RSS about what RSS stands for. So today, once again, we have tried to revisit all the areas about what is the RSS view on the Constitution, what is the RSS view on democracy, what is the RSS view on immigration, what is the RSS view on reconversion back into Hinduism. So the next time somebody comes and you're in a debate and somebody says this is the RSS view, well, you know where to go. Click the link, share the link with them, and tell them this is the RSS view, this is the book, buy the book. So Sharda ji, thanks a lot for coming again,
Thank you. Thanks
and
for
I
having this dialogue.
really look forward to talking to you again post the book is the new book, the upcoming book is released on RSS role in the freedom struggle, and maybe we can revisit some new topics by the time. I'm sure the left wing media will find a new thing to criticize RSS with.
They're welcome. Bye.
Right.
Thank you so much, Kushal. Thanks for effort to put me across to people. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Take care, guys. Bye. Have a nice day.